Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Simba gedola, liyo liyo besimcha. Simba gedola, liyo liyo besimcha. Simba gedola, liyo liyo besimcha. Simba gedola, liyo besimcha. Simba gedola, liyo 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 besimcha. Be the reason someone smiles. 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 Simba gedola, liyo besimcha. Simba gedola, liyo liyo besimcha. Simba gedola, liyo liyo besimcha. Simba gedola, liyo besimcha.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla raba emunatecha.
No ya mavdil ben kodesh lechol.
Lulav and etrog, lulav and etrog. Shake your lulav and etrog. Oh, hey Johnny. Did you shake a lulav and etrog today?
Lulav and etrog? What's that?
Johnny never learned what a lulav and etrog are.
but he's now about to learn something that's going to add to his life as a Jew.
Lulav and etrog. It's only one of the super duper special mitzvahs in the Torah.
I know what mitzvahs are. They're the commandments that God commanded the Jewish people in the Torah.
No, don't break the fourth wall.
Oh, sorry, okay.
That's right, Johnny. And it's a super special mitzvah because it can only be done in the holiday of Sukkot.
Oh, that's the holiday that celebrates how God protected the Jewish people in the desert.
Good job, Johnny. Every year, 4 days after Yom Kippur, we build the sukkah and we shake the lulav and etrog. We shake the 4 species: the lulav, the hadassim, the arava, and...
But what's that weird lemon doing here?
Oh, Johnny, you silly little ignorant, dumb, idiotic, naive little boy. This is an etrog.
An etch what?
It's an etrog. The Torah commands that we should shake a pri etz adar, a fruit of a beautiful tree, and we find out that it's an etrog. Each part of the lulav and etrog represent a different kind of Jew. An etrog has smell and taste, which represents a Jew who learns Torah and does mitzvahs. Lulav, from a palm branch, only has taste from its dates, which represents a Jew who only learns Torah. And the hadassim, which only has smell, which represents a Jew who only does mitzvahs. And the arava, which has neither taste nor smell, which represents a Jew who does neither. Nonetheless, if even one of the species is missing, the mitzvah is incomplete.
Oh, it's like saying that we need all of the Jews together, or else we are incomplete.
Exactly, Johnny. And we shake lulav and etrog every day of Sukkot, except for Shabbos. Now come shake lulav and etrog, Johnny.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat lulav.
Good morning, good Vach Shavua Tov. Welcome to Breakfast with Elli. It is Sunday, October 9th, the 14th day of Tishrei, which means tonight is Sukkot. That's right, Sukkos. The Torah portion is Vezos HaBracha, which we do not actually read. I'll explain that soon. HaYom Yom Rishon l'Shabbos, the first day counting up toward Shabbos, we learn the first Aliyah. In New York City, you light Yom Tov candles tonight at 6:06 p.m. 6:06 p.m. Tomorrow night, Monday night, you will light from an existing flame after 7:04, and Yom Tov will end Monday night at 7:02. 6:06, 7:04, 7:02. 642. Remember those numbers, all right? An existing flame would be if you have a gas stove that you are leaving on, or if it has a pilot light and no electronic ignition, and also a 24-hour yahrzeit candle or a 48-hour yahrzeit candle is preferable. All right, yeah, you just stick a match in it and then light and then leave the match to burn out on the candle tray because you can't put out a fire on Yom Tov. I know, right? It's true. All right. Oh my goodness, so much to do, so much to do. We will not be here Monday and Tuesday, as I'm sure you figured out by now. Those are the holidays of Sukkot. We will not be back here until Wednesday. So today is the day to ask all your questions, okay? Yep, ask all your questions about Yom Tov. If you can't do it here online, you can do, I'm sorry, if you can't do it here, you can do it online, and I will be there for you. Whatever you need, I am available for you. All right, let us begin. We have a lot to cover today with the Bracha of Tzitzit. Men and boys, take your front two Tzitzit. Let's go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על מצוות ציצית.
All right, Al Divrei Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Hareini Mekabel.
Hareini mekabel alay mitzvat aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
All right, Torah Tziva Lanu.
Ay Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov.
All right, and now for tzedakah giving.
I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box.
Give for today, tomorrow, and Monday.
I put it in the pushki for someone else to keep.
We'll do that again. Candle lighting.
I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box.
Yeah.
I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else in need.
All right, tzedakah has been given, and now let us say the Shema. Ready? Cover your eyes.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
All right, fantastic. Brings us to breakfast. All right, I have coffee and yogurt, as usual. And let's say the bracha shahakol together. If you have another bracha, they're listed right over here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shahakol nihiyah b'dvaroi.
Coffee, blessed coffee. God bless you for being a friend. When the whole world turns on me, it's only you on which I can depend. I want to taste you in the morning and a few times throughout the day. Yes, a cup or two in the evening too. For me, it's the only way.
All right, Ali, yes. Thank you, Ali. All right. Yes. You asked that. I am sitting in front of the Rebbe's Sukkah. Yep, they continue to put out the Sukkah in front of 770. And they put the rain cover on it so it stays nice and fresh. And when it's time to go into the Sukkah, they will take the cover off. Yep. All right. Today in Jewish history. All right. Today is the yahrzeit of the Maggid of Koznitz, Rabbi Yisrael Hopstein. He was a disciple of great Hasidic rabbis, including Rabbi Dovber of Mezrich, the Mezricher Maggid, a famed Baal Meifes, a miracle worker. He authored the work Avodas Yisrael and one of the disseminators of Hasidism in Poland. Yep, he went around teaching what the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid taught. Today we go out into the Sukkah and prepare the 4 kinds. All right? We bind the 3 hadassim, the 2 aravos, and the lulav, the myrtle, the willow, and the palm frond in the sukkah on the afternoon preceding the festival. All right? So we're going to do that today. And, of course, how this whole thing started was we live streamed that, and we will do that today as well. On the first day of Sukkot, on Monday, is the yahrzeit of Rabbi Yosef Shlomo del Medigo. He was a rabbi, a philosopher, a physician, a prolific author, and he died in 1655. He was proficient in many sciences in addition to his Talmudic studies. He is known as the Yashar from Kandia, Yashar being an acronym for Rabbi Yosef Shlomo Rofi, which is Hebrew for doctor. And Candia, which was Crete, being his place of birth. He wrote the Sefer Elim on mathematics, astronomy, and other sciences, and the Matzref LeChochma, which is a defense of the Kabbalah. All right, beginning tonight, we eat in the Sukkah. The festival of Sukkos, commemorating Hashem's enveloping protection of the children of Israel during their 40-year journey in the desert, is celebrated for 7 days, beginning from the eve of tonight. And during that time, we are commanded to dwell in a sukkah, which is a hut of temporary construction with a roof covering of raw, unfinished vegetable matter, branches, reeds, bamboo, signifying the temporality and fragility of human habitation and man-made shelter, and our utter dependence on Hashem's protection and providing. Now, how does one fulfill the mitzvah of dwelling in the sukkah? Well, we eat, we drink, and we do as much in the sukkah as possible, both by day and by night. If one lives in one's house on the other side of the year, for 7 days, a person should make his home should make his home his temporary dwelling, and his sukkah the permanent dwelling. We have to eat at least one large egg's worth of bread in the sukkah on the first and second evenings of the holiday. We make the bracha, it's approximately 1 ounce, the bracha leishev basukkah. For the rest of the festival, all meals should be eaten in the sukkah. Now, meals is subject to personal custom. Some people will eat anything that's a shahakol outside of the sukkah, but anything other than the bracha shahakol, they eat in the sukkah. Some people will include in that adama, vegetables. Most everyone agrees that fruits, ha'etz, and mazonos, cakes and cookies, and of course anything where you're washing for bread, must be eaten in the sukkah. Now, the Chabad custom is to refrain from eating or drinking anything outside of the sukkah, even a glass of water. Some people are more careful about this than others. Refer to your personal custom or your rabbi, all right, to find out what you do. Now, if it rains, yes, somebody asked, if it rains, obviously, if you are having the Yom Tov meal, you should at least make kiddush, the wine, and wash for bread and eat a kazayas of challah in the sukkah, even if it's raining. That's what you should do. And then take your meal back in the house. You're not supposed to be uncomfortable in the sukkah, all right? But, if it's just cold, you can put on a coat. According to Kabbalistic tradition, we are visited in the sukkah by 7 ushpizin, supernal guests: Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David, one on each of the 7 days of the festival. And another of the 7 in the above order leads the group. Now, they all come, but the leader of the group is a different one every night. Now, the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke of 7 Hasidic ushpizim: the Baal Shem Tov, the Mizritcher Magid, and the 5 Rebbes of Chabad: Rabbi Shneur Zalman, the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Dov Ber, Rabbi Menachem Mendel, the Tzemach Tzedek, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shalom Dov Ber, so the Lubavitcher Rebbe would speak each night of Sukkot on the special characteristics of both the biblical and the Hasidic ushpizin of the day and their connection to each other for that specific day of the festival. We also take the lulav and the esrog, the 4 kinds: the splendid fruit of a tree, fronds of dates, the branch of a thick leaf tree, and aravos of the river. The Talmud identifies these 4 kinds as the esrog, the citron, the lulav, the unopened palm branch, the hadass, the myrtle twig, of which there 3 are taken, and the arava willow, 2 wigs. Now, some people have accustomed to put more hadassim. The Rebbe always put more hadassim, several sets of 3, always in multiples of 3. Now, each day of Sukkot, except for Shabbat, we take the lulav in hand, recite a blessing over it, take hold of the esrog, we hold them together and move them back and forth in all directions, right, left, forward, up, down, and back. In addition to making the Bracha Shehechiyanu on the first time that it's taken during the festival. We also hold this during the Hallel, moving them in the specific places in the text, and the Hoshanot prayers, during which we march around the bima, the reading table in the synagogue, which are included in the daily service each day of Sukkot. All right? Questions about how you do that in specific should be in your Siddur. If not, contact me. I'm happy to help you. We also have Simchat Beis HaShoeva, the water drawing celebration. When the Holy Temple stood in Jerusalem, one of the special Sukkot observances was to pour water on the altar. The drawing of water for this purpose was preceded by an all-night celebration in the temple courtyard. On the 15 steps leading to the inner courtyard, the Levites, stood playing a variety of musical instruments. Sages danced and juggled burning torches, and huge oil-burning lamps illuminated the entire city. The singing and dancing went on till daybreak, when a procession would make its way to the Shiloach spring, which flowed in a valley below the temple, to Shaftim Mayim Bisosain Mayne Hayeshua, draw water with joy. Now it says in the Talmud, one who did not see the joy of the water drawing celebration has never seen joy in his life. Now, when the water was poured every day, the special celebrations were only held on Chol HaMoed, since many of the elements of the celebration, playing of musical instruments, etc., are forbidden on Yom Tov, but singing and dancing is not forbidden. Today, we commemorate these joyous celebrations by holding Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the joy of the water drawing events in the streets, with music and dancing. The Lubavitcher Rebbe initiated the custom of holding such celebrations even on Shabbos and Yom Tov, but without musical instruments, of course. The fact that we cannot celebrate as we did in the temple, said the Rebbe, means we are free to celebrate the joy of Sukkot with singing and dancing every day of the festival. All right. I think that's wonderful. And of course, I have my own personal Simchas Beis HaShoeva. I have Yartzeit for my mother on the third day of Chol HaMoed, which will be this year on Thursday night and Friday. Okay. Let's see. What else is important to go through now? Oh, I think we've got most of it covered here. All right, we'll talk about Sukkot a little bit more when we learn Torah today. Okay, we are still saying. Oh yes. Well, we'll get to that. That doesn't have to be today. All right. We are still saying chapter 27, LeDavid Hashem Ori. And of course, you know that this is the year of Hakel, the gathering when Moshe Rabbeinu, when the king gathered all the people in the temple courtyard and read from the Torah. All right. So this is a Hakel year, and that happened on Sukkot. So let's not forget to have as many people over as you can and make a Hakel gathering. On Erev Sukkos, we give tzedakah generously, invite as many people as we can for the Yom Tov meal. People get a haircut today, cut your nails, bathe, immerse in the mikveh. And again, this afternoon I will be broadcasting live as I bind my lulav in the sukkah, all right? And of course, make sure you give your sukkah a once-over before Yom Tov to make sure it's completely ready. We had some wind here over Shabbat, and my schach blew off. One of the sides of the schach blew off. We light the Yom Tov candles in the sukkah. Now, if you're worried about it, you can light them in the sukkah and then move them inside after a few minutes, or have someone stay there and attend to them. Make sure that you say the proper Lahadlik Ner Shel Yom Tov and the Shehechianu. Now, if a man lights candles, he should not say the Shehechianu, because he'll make it later in Kiddush, and keep in mind the lighting of the candles. All right? That's very important to do. All right. I think we're ready to move on to HaYom Yom. We're going to do HaYom Yom for 3 days, the 14th, 15th, and 16th of Tishrei.
The HaYom Yom for the 14th of Tishrei, Erev Chag Sukkos. The Rebbe writes that we have to make an Erev Tafshilin, and then he writes that we use not more than 2 araves, but many hadassim can be used, more than 2. We make a point of putting together the lulav and all of its parts in the sukkah and on Erev Yom Tov. 2 rings are put on the lulav itself to keep the lulav together, and these should be covered. They should be low enough to be covered by the hadassim and the araves. Even the top ring should be at least somewhat covered. And in addition to those 2 rings, 3 rings are used to bind together the hadassim, the araves, and the lulav. And these 3 rings are supposed to be close to each other, so that all 3 of them are within 1 hand's breadth. For the 15th of Tishrei, the Rebbe writes that when you give your lulav and esrog to someone else to make the bracha over it, you have to actually state that you're giving it as a gift with the intention of having it returned, and particularly on the first day of Yom Tov. And this is a benefit both to the giver and to the receiver. My father instructed that we should start saying the Shechianu bracha on the lulav while holding the lulav in one hand and the esrog in the other. The psukim, ki amarti, etc., are said only on Hoshana Rabbah. During the day, when we make Kiddush during Sukkos, we say Leishiv Basukah, the bracha, Leishiv Basukah after Kiddush, and not after the Meitzi. The custom for the Birchas Kayanim, for the Duchaning, was already mentioned earlier on the second day of Shavuos, and we know that Rebbe writes that the Alter Rebbe used to take the Tzemach Tzedek prior to the Tzemach Tzedek's marriage. The Alter Rebbe would take him under his talus for the Duchaning. In the HaYom Yom for the 16th of Tishrei, the Rebbe writes that the Tzemach Tzedek once told the story that in the year Tov Kuf Samach Tes, we heard from the Zayda, from the Alter Rebbe, for the 6th time, the Maimer Ushaftem Mayim, which is the first Shaftem Mayim that appears in Likutei Torah. And it was, as the Gemara says, describing the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, the Gemara Yishalmi in Sukkah Pei Hey, Halacha Aleph, that from the experience of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, the Jews were able to draw buckets full of holiness, of prophecy, and so on. Yena, the prophet, received his prophecy during the joy of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. And we received, at that experience, we received infinite godliness. And the end is that Mashiach will come, and that is the endlessness of that which we receive, that Mashiach will come, because the beginning is connected to the end. And therefore Mashiach, which is really the beginning and initial purpose for creation, comes at the end of time, because the beginning is connected to the end. Concerning the customs, the minhagim, the Rebbe writes that in the Kiddush that is made at night, because this is the second day of Sukkos, the Shechiyanu is said first, and afterwards Leishev Basukkah. By Mincha we don't say Haidu, but we do say Pasach Aliyah.
All right. There you go. Now, the rings that he is talking about are these. Just a piece of the lulav. If you didn't purchase them in advance, it's no big deal. Kids usually make these. They charge $1 for the set of 5. I know. It's adorable and wonderful. And then at this point, you just you take them and you fold them over and you loop them through. And then, once again, you just take it like this. You take the piece and you put it through that little piece over here. There you go. Okay. And then you just pull it through. This will get tied onto the lulav. And then you can take a scissor and cut off the excess. And this is what you end up with. A little ring. And that will go around the lulav. 2 of these around the lulav itself. And then 3 around the lulav and the hadassim and the aravos. All right? You need help with those. Again, I will be making these later today, and I will be happy to show you. All right. 60 days to a more complete holiday season. We are days 44, 45, and 46.
The journey continues day 44, the Sukkah hug. Today is Erev Sukkot, the day before the 8-day holiday of Sukkot. This joyous and celebratory holiday is primarily featured by 2 key mitzvot. One is sitting in a sukkah, which is a portable hut, and the second is the taking of the 4 species. So the Torah tells us that beginning on the first day of Sukkot, we dwell in little huts or booths with a roof of palm fronds, branches, reeds, or bamboos, in which we eat all our meals and conduct all the activities of the day, which we would regularly do at home. These huts remind us of our total dependency on God, that our seemingly sturdy, man-made shelters are nothing in the absence of God's care. These huts also remind us of the clouds of glory which hovered over and protected the Jewish people as they wandered in the desert on the way to the land of Israel. There's a fascinating lesson that this provides us, and that is that it teaches us that the material world in which we live is a temporary place. We're just travelers in this physical world. Our true home is not material, it's spiritual. Our dwelling places, as beautiful as they may be, are not our true inner home. They may be grand structures, but the real beauty is recognizing that security does not come from material possessions, from material structures and buildings, but from a divine place. So as we enter into this holiday, and we build our sukkot, and then we sit in them, and we celebrate in them, and we eat our meals, we recognize, and it reminds us of the hug, the divine hug, because the sukkah surrounds us from all directions. It's an embrace, a spiritual embrace. So as we prepare for Sukkot, ask yourself, how much do you invest your security into the material world, and how much do you recognize that the truth is that it's our soul and our spirituality that really gives us true security. The journey continues day 45, binding the 4 kinds. After performing the first primary mitzvah of Sukkot, of sitting in the hut the first night of Sukkot, the next morning, the first day of Sukkot, and every day subsequent to that, we perform the second primary mitzvah, which is gathering together and binding the 4 kinds. That is the lulav, the esrog, the hadassim, and the aravot. The lulav is a palm frond, the citron, the myrtle branches, and the willow twigs. We bind them together and we wave them in different directions, in the 6 different directions, and we bless them each morning. What is the significance of these 4 kinds? Says the Medrash, they correspond to 4 types of people on the spectrum of any community. You have those that are like the citron, which both have a delicious taste and a delightful aroma, representing the individual who both studies and achieves in action. The palm frond produces fruit that has a taste but no aroma. This is the portrait of the scholar who is not so involved in the world of action. The myrtle, which is fragrant but tasteless, is the activist who performs good deeds, but it overshadows his scholarship. And the willow, which is tasteless and scentless, represents the person who neither studies nor achieves or actualizing neither his intellectual potential nor his capacity to improve the world. But on Sukkot, all these four kinds are joined together in one aguda achas, in one bundle, one bind, representing the unity that this holiday represents, which of course is also connected to joy, the unity. So on Sukkot, in addition to the great joy that we celebrate, and in addition to the hug, the transcendent hug of Sukkot, v'lekachtem lechem, we take now the species, the four different types, and we join together that no matter what type of person you are, to perform this mitzvah, we need each other, and we complement one the other. So it's about emphasizing the love, the unconditional connection, and the way we complement each other, and reaching out to each other, no matter who you are, even people of different backgrounds, and joining together in this great celebration. The journey continues, day 46, inviting guests. Celebrating cannot be done alone. We celebrate with other people. That is why we are commanded by the Torah to welcome guests. The mitzvah of achnosat orchim. It is very basic and fundamental that we share our joy. In addition to welcoming friends into our sukkah and eating a festive meal in cheerful company, we also welcome, in accordance with the Kabbalistic tradition in the Zohar, 7 mystical guests, ushpizin, also known as the 7 faithful shepherds: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, Joseph, and David. So when we sit in the sukkah, the Zohar explains, in the shadow of faith, Abraham and the other 6 guests come and visit us. And they come to feed us with spiritual nourishment, each imparting the quality unique to him. On our part, there's no greater hospitality than we can accord them than to emulate their lives. On each of the 7 days of the festival, another one of the 7 ushpizin, or guests, leads the group. So as we look into each day of the holiday, in addition to the human guests, we have these spiritual guests. In the Chabad tradition, we also have 7 Hasidic guests, beginning with the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid of Mezrich, the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe Rashab, and the last 2 days, Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, the previous Rebbe and our Rebbe. So today, think about the guest that comes on this particular day. On the second day of Sukkot, it's Yitzchak. On the first day of Sukkot, it was Abraham. And what their particular features and what we can emulate. It's a tremendous experience to recognize that you're not sitting alone in this sukkah, but besides the people with you are also these powerful shepherds that give us tremendous strength and great power to live our lives in a joyous way and a kind way and compassionate way and in a disciplined way.
All right. Baruch Hashem. Fantastic stuff. And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidall.com.
PestProRidall.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidall.com.
Tarzan Group. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to TarzanGroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565. And order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at TarzanGroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's orchid blog.
And by Dina D Design.
dinaddesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications, logos, wall hangings, Judaica, and you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe.
All right, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar if you'd like to contribute to bringing Torah to the world today. Help us pay our expenses here. Parshas Vezos HaBracha, the concluding parsha of the entire Torah. It's never read on Shabbos, but it's read on the festival of Simchas Torah at the end of the 7-day holiday of Sukkot. And that has the following significance. The Torah begins with Breshis, in the beginning, which teaches us the general principle that Hashem created the world for the sake of the Torah, which is called Reshis, the beginning of his way. The subsequent parshas continue to discuss various details concerning how the Torah's plan is to be enacted. But on reaching the end of the Torah, we return once again to the general theme and purpose of the Torah, V'zois habracha. This is the blessing, that Hashem's blessings are brought into the world through the observance of Torah. The blessing mentioned here by Moshe in this parsha is considerably, the blessings, plural, mentioned here by Moshe in this parsha are considerably greater than any of the blessings given earlier in the Torah, such as those given by Yitzchak or Yaakov. And yet, in contrast to all the other parshas of the Torah, this parsha is never read amid the spiritually uplifting atmosphere of Shabbat, but on a weekday. And while it is a festival day, it is nevertheless a lower sanctity than the day of Shabbat, as evidenced by the fact that many acts that are forbidden on Shabbos are permitted on Yom Tov, a festival. So, with Parshas V'zos HaBracha, this is the blessing, we witness two extremes. It's the parsha which contains the most blessings, and yet it's read on a day which is of lesser holiness. Now, the Rebbe says this indicates that the blessings read here are very powerful. For the ability to penetrate through a lower sphere, a weekday as opposed to a Shabbat, indicates that the blessings come from a higher source and have more power. Furthermore, the parsha is called Vezos. This is the bracha, indicating, Vezos is plural, indicating that we are speaking here about blessings whose benefits are visible and apparent to the extent that one can actually point to it with your finger and say, Zois habracha, this is the blessing. I know. It is so incredibly powerful. All right. Let's do a few Shnayim Yomis. Catch up for the week.
וזאת הברכה Rishon. This week's parasha, וזאת הברכה, discusses Moshe Rabbeinu's final words to Am Yisrael, giving him the last chizuk after spending 40 years with them in Midbar and staying with them and going through all the different nisyonot and the highs and the lows of Am Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu sort of continues, like the Midrash says, continues the ways of Yaakov Avinu, that at the end of his life he gathered the Shvatim and he started giving brachot or remazim or tochacha or rebuke or everyone on their level or whatever they needed to hear by explaining certain characteristics and inanim of the Shvatim. So he explains, he starts off with Am Yisrael, Torah tzivah lanu Moshe, Morasha Kilat Yaakov, the background of Am Yisrael, Vayibishur Melech, V'tasef Rashi Am, talking about the grand overall collective of Am Yisrael, and then starts going to the details one by one, sort of giving them the chizuk that they need, or giving the tochacha in a hint of what they need to hear in order for them to continue. Because he knew that the second that he passes away, that Am Yisrael is sort of going to have their nisyonot and not stay in the path that he led because he wasn't around. The nature of a person is that a person can be in the presence of a big tzaddik, of a big person like Moshe Rabbeinu, but at the same time, the second that person is not there, the second that tzaddik is not there, he sort of forgets himself and he gets dragged and he goes on with the way of life. And it's something that we have to learn, that we're exposed to tzaddikim, we're exposed to leaders, but just because the leaders are not here doesn't mean that we should fall back and fall into different habits. Rather, we have to take with us what they gave to us when they were alive. Zot Bracha Sheini continues the Torah to go through the Shvatim, starting off with Levi. Ulevi amar tumecha ve'orecha liish chasidecha asher nisito b'masa tereveu al memiriva. Talking about Levi, whose urecha ve'tumecha, the Levim, or the Kohanim came from, who had the Urim Ve'tumim, which was the breastplate on the chest of the Kohen Gadol, that they were the leaders of Am Yisrael. Whenever Am Yisrael had any questions, any doubts, should we go out to war, should we not go out to war, they always asked the Urim Ve'tumim. That's the Ish Chasidecha. Ish Chasidecha was the Kohen Gadol, who directed Am Yisrael and was the eyes and ears of Am Yisrael and the connection between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael when Moshe was not around. And then it goes on to say, Yeru Mishpatecha Li'Yaakov, Toratcha Li'Yisrael. That's talking about Levi, Shevet Levi, like the Rambam says in Alchot Shmita V'Yovelot, that the Bnei Torah of Am Yisrael are all Shayach to Shevet Levi, which means even though a person is not part of Shevet Levi, but if he wants to learn Torah, if he wants to work and toil in Torah, he has a din of a Shevet Levi. The same way Shevet Levi in Mitzrayim did not go through the Sheibud, did not go through the bondage and the slavery of Mitzrayim because of the fact they were in the Torah, so too it says, Kolam kabel alav ol Torah ma'avirin mimeno ol derech eretz. That a person that accepts upon themselves the yoke of Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu gives them the Siyata Dishmaya, that they don't live through the basic laws of nature. There's something supernatural about the way they live, and that's what the Torah says. Yeru mishpatecha liYaakov v'toratcha liYisrael. Yasimu ketorah be'apecha v'chalil lemizbechecha is a remez, is a hint to the avodah of the ketoret that they did, and that is about Shevet Levi. Then the Torah goes on to say, Binyamin Amar, talking about the Shevet Binyamin. The Shevet Binyamin had in the chelik, in the lot of Shevet Binyamin was the part of the Bet HaMikdash. And that's what the Mefarshim explain, that it was on his shoulders. It says, that it was resting and hovers between the shoulders of Binyamin, meaning to say that when the mountains of Yerushalayim and Yehuda, they sort of overlapped between the part of Shevet Binyamin and the part of Shevet Yehuda when it came to the Bet HaMikdash.
All right, and we will catch up with the rest of this on Wednesday, God willing. All right? Yes. Let me just make a note of that. Okay. Let's spend some time talking about Sukkot.
Boker Tov, good morning. We continue with our 3-minute daily dose of Torah. The question arises, we refer to Sukkot, well, when is Sukkot? That's a good question. We have a date, we know about that, or the Chag HaAsif, the festival of the harvest. But the Torah actually uses a phrase which makes us scratch our heads. Chag HaKatzir b'karei ma'asecha asher tizra b'sadeh, we're told in Shemot 23, referring to Shavuot, the one harvest festival, the time of reaping, when you reap those crops, and then the Chag HaAsif, that's that refers to the holiday that's celebrated as Sukkot also. B'tzeit Hashana, B'asbachat Ma'asechem min Hasadeh. When you're gathering your handiwork from the field, it says B'tzeit Hashana, when the year is ending, or the ending of the year. And Chag, again in Lamed Daled, V'Chag HaSif Tkufat Hashana, referred to as the turning point of the year, which Rav Yoel Ben Nun, in an article on the topic, chooses to translate when at the end of the turning of the year. Now, so what is it? So I thought Rosh Hashanah was already the beginning of the end of it was the beginning of the new year, and so which case, Sukkot, the harvest festival of Chag HaSif, shouldn't be called the end of the year. And so Rav Yoel actually points out that, and there's another pasuk which seems to imply that Yom Kippur is kind of a turning point. We blow the Yovel is established through the shofar blowing the end of Yom Kippur, the Jubilee year, and he points out that the Musaf sacrifices are the same for Shmini Atzeret, Yom Kippur, and Rosh Hashanah, different from, let's say, Pesach and Shavuot. So he claims that they sort of hold together, in effect, three different turning points. Yovel has its turning point for the new cycle. Rosh Hashanah is the solar cycle, approximately 365 days. Not true. I'm sorry. It's going to be the calendar cycle of the lunar cycle, even though it's trying to mimic the solar cycle. And then you have this holiday, which is the harvest cycle. And it should actually be pointed out that Kufat Hashanah might actually be more of a reference point to the equinox, and not to the and that's a Kufat Hashanah, the equinox that happens at this point. So that really what you have is Tishrei as a season of endings and beginnings. So we actually have this phrase to talk about many Rosh Hashanahs, right? So Rosh Hashanah is a Rosh Hashanah for certain things, and you'll have more Rosh Hashanahs for rain and other things like that. So that's kind of established as well. But you should see this whole period as the end and the beginning of a cycle, and Sukkot is a part of that. So as we enter our Sukkot festival together this evening, think of it as also a turning point. Maybe Shmini Atzeret will be part of that too, as an end of the year of the bringing in the crops. If we were an agrarian people, we would be better sensitive to that, and the starting point for the new season that comes afterwards. Wishing you all a Chag Sameach.
All right. Fantastic. And now we move on to some more Sukkot information here. Let me get to it. Here we go. Rabbi Sack.
I don't know about you, but when I sit in a sukkah, I think to myself, that's how our ancestors lived. Not just in the desert in the days of Moses, but for most of 20 centuries of exile, not knowing from one year to the next whether they'd still be there or be forced to move on, as Jews were forced to leave England in 1290, Spain 1492, and in the years between from almost everywhere in Europe. For all that time, Jews knew what it was like to have no fixed home, to know that the place where you are living is just a dirat arai, a temporary dwelling, which is what a sukkah is. Yet what did they call Sukkot? That's the strange thing. They called it Zman Simchatenu, the season of our rejoicing. Somehow Sukkot decodes for us the secret of joy. Joy doesn't come from great buildings of brick or stone. It doesn't come from what we shut out, but from what we let in. Joy comes from a roof open to heaven, a door open to guests, and a heart open to thanksgiving. Ben Zoma was right when he said, "Who is rich? Not who has everything he wants, but one who celebrates everything he has." Sukkot is one of the world's great seminars in happiness because it shows us that you can sit in a shack with only leaves for a roof, exposed to all the hazards of the cold, the wind, and the rain, and yet still rejoice when you're surrounded by God and the people you love. Have that, and you have everything. Chag Sameach.
All right, and one more piece about Sukkot.
Please give some tzedakah and Erev Shabbos, Erev Sukkos. Can't guarantee we'll have time Erev Sukkos to record and send you another little Erev Yom Tov message, but we're ready in the Sukkos mode. We're going towards the outside. So I'm sitting outside where, in Mirz Hashem, if Chas v'Shalom we're still in Golas, the Sukkah will be built. But we're outdoors. Let me share with you a beautiful, beautiful esrik story of a most unusually beautiful esrik. The story is told by Rabbi Klapman, who was a famous sofer actually in the community. And this is what he says. 1 year before Sukkot, the Chassid Rabbi Yegros asked if he had already bought an esrik. He says, when I saw that I didn't buy the esrik, he says, why don't you go to this particular individual? He sells esrogim, and he needs the parnasa. He needs the money to be able to support his family. I went there, and I started like everybody else looking for nice esrog. And I don't need to tell you that this esrogim choosing is a whole undertaking. To choose a beautiful esrog, as it says, Hadar, should be a nice esrog. Every mitzvah has to be nice, but there's a particular emphasis on esrogim, lulavim, they should be nice. So I'm checking and checking and checking, and I didn't find anything nice. While I'm checking, another Jewish person comes in, person that I know, very comfortable, Chassidish Reed, and he comes in and asks the businessman, can you give me a esrog? You know what I like. He gives him an esrog, he pays him, and he goes. Says, as he was leaving, I was leaving because I couldn't find anything nice. On the way out, I asked him, I was searching for nice esrog, I couldn't find anything. What did you find? Can I see your esrog? I look at his esrog, definitely kosher, but not one that one would say that is a hadar, a beautiful esrog. Says, why did you take this one? Says, because to me, what's important to me is that this seed has parnasa. To me, a beautiful esrog is that he has money to be able to feed his family. That's the beauty for me, for my esrog. Okay, I was quite impressed with this statement, but I was still looking for an esrog which I think is nice for the mitzvah. Came to shul, and I was certain that this particular individual was comfortable. He probably just bought this esrog not to use it, and he bought another one for the mitzvah. I came in shul and I noticed him, and I looked at the esrog and I saw, no, he's using exactly this esrog which was Nothing special. I was very touched by this. In other words, this person, it wasn't just a statement, it was real. To him, the beauty of the esrog is helping another Jew to have parnassah. I decided that a story like this should be shared with the Rebbe. I asked the secretary, do you think I should send the story to the Rebbe? And he said, the Rebbe gets so many letters with problems. Why shouldn't he get sometimes a letter with nachas? Definitely. I went to somebody who has a beautiful handwriting, who is a very great writer and a poet himself, and he wrote it in a beautiful, poetic writing story, the whole story depicted in a magnificent way. I gave it to the secretary to hand it in to the Rebbe. And this is what the secretary followed up with me. He says, look, I don't have an answer for you. The Rebbe didn't give me an answer for you, but I can tell you one thing. I handed that letter to the Rebbe on top of the whole pile of letters. And I stayed in the room. I wanted to see what the Rebbe is going to do. The Rebbe took that letter and started reading. And the Rebbe, as we know, was an extremely fast reader. But this particular time, he read it slowly, word by word, line by line. And as the Rebbe was progressing, reading the letter, I saw the Rebbe's smile growing bigger and bigger and bigger. He says, the Rebbe didn't answer, but I can tell you, the nachas ruach that the Rebbe had from this story was obvious on the Rebbe's face. So my friends, yes, get a nice esrog, no question about it. But remember, the Yom Tov of Sukkos is all about unity, all about caring and sharing for another person. So while you want to look for a nice esrog, make sure that another Jew has what to eat for Yom Tov. Make sure that another Jew has where to be for Sukkos. Make sure that another Jew has also a lulav and esrog to be able to do the mitzvah. Not about just you walking into shul with everybody ranting and raving. Wow, what a magnificent esrog you have. The beauty of the esrog is the Jewish soul, the Jewish smile, which is reflected in this esrog. So in this year of Yom Tov Sukkos, which is the Yom Tov of Hakel, may the Eibishter help that just like the lulav and esrog is unifying us all, we should all already be unified before Sukkos, before the Shabbos, with Mashiach in the Beis HaMikdash. Good Shabbos and good Yom Tov.
How about that? Right? Isn't that cool? All right, Tehillim.
לדוד השם, אורי ואישי, אורי ואישי ממהרה.
All right, we are saying chapter 27.
דוד, אדוני רואי ואישי ממי אירא, אדוני מעוז חיי ממי אבחר, בקרוב עלי מרעים לכל אסבשרי, צורי ואויבי לי, המה כשלו ונפלו, אם תחנה עלי מחנה, לא יירא ליבי, אם תקום עלי מלחמה, בזוס אני בוטח. אך אז שאלתי מעש אדוני, עושה אבקש, שבתי בבית אדוני, כל ימי חיי, לחזוס בנועם אדוני, ולבקר בהיכלו, כי יצפנני בסוכו, ביום רעה יסתירני, בססר אהלו, בצור ירוממני, ועתה ירום ראשי על אויבי סביבוסי, ואזבחה ואהלו זבחי שרועה, אשירה ואזמר על אדוני, שמע אדוני קולי אקרא, וחונני וענני, לך אמר ליבי, בקשו פני, אס פניך אדוני אבקש, אל תסתר פניך ממני, אל תט באף עבדך, עזרתי הייסה, אל תתשני, ואל תעזבני אלוהי אישי, כי אבי ואמי עזבוני, ואדוני יאספני, הוריני אדוני דרכך, ונחני באורך מישור, למען שוררי, אל תתנני בנפש צרי, כי קמו בי עדי שקר, ויפח חמאס, לולא האמנתי לירוס בטוב אדוני, בארץ חיים, קווה אל אדוני, חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקווה אל אדוני.
All right. Tanya in 5.
Tanya.
For today, the 14th day of Tishrei. There is a great spiritual benefit to giving smaller amounts of tzedakah on a frequent basis rather than one lump sum all at once, even if the total amount given is the same in the end. Our sages say everything is judged according to the multiplicity of action. Now, the Rambam explains that on one level, this is because multiplicity of action, in other words, developing the habit of giving, has a refining effect on us, helping us to strengthen our inner kindness and generosity. Apart from Maimonides' explanation, there is a pasuk that says the effect of tzedakah is for life. Now, the Alter Rebbe explains that this means that when we give tzedakah, we draw down a supernal life force from the source of life, the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the eternal, to the land of life, the Malchus of Atzilus, which is then infused with all the worlds below. Malchus of Atzilus, which is the Shechina, the divine presence, gives us the strength that animates us even in exile. Now, tzedakah has this effect, because when we initiate with our giving below to those who have nothing on their own, a corresponding arousal from above is elicited, especially when our tzedakah is given to the physical land of life, Eretz Yisrael. From this, we understand a deeper dimension of the sage's statement that everything is judged according to the multiplicity of our action. Every individual act of tzedakah unites Kudsha Brichu, the Holy One, blessed be He, and His Shechina, His divine presence, raising her out of the dust of exile little by little until Mashiach is revealed. And that is Tanya in 5. And now, Sefer HaMitzvos of the Rambam.
No, it's not impossible that Rebbe did say, just study Rambam each and every day. I'll never miss my daily Rambam. My Rebbe so desires, I'm not busy or too tired. When I learn Rambam connected, I remain, I am Elli in the Rebbe's golden chain.
And we are Mitzvah Minutes 144, 145, and 146.
Yesterday we learned that if one has grain or crop growing wild in his field, he's not allowed to cut it during the Shemitah year. Today we learn negative mitzvah 223, which is the same prohibition as it applies to trees. If one finds fruit growing wild in his orchard during the Shemitah year, he's not allowed to harvest it. Positive mitzvah number 134 is that, seeing as we have these wild crop and fruit growing in our fields, we must specifically announce them to be hefker, ownerless, and they may be taken by anybody who wishes. Positive mitzvah number 141 is another mitzvah that's unique to the Shemitah year, and that is that during the 7th year, all debts are canceled. Any loans that people took from us are completely nullified and they don't owe us the money anymore. Negative mitzvah 230 is the flip side of this, that one may not demand his debts during the Shemitah year. Now, seeing as the Shemitah year cancels all loans, one might be tempted not to loan any money out during the 6 years before the Shemitah for fear that the borrower will default and not pay back the loan. Negative mitzvah 231 states that one may not refrain from giving out loans during the 6 years before the Shemitah year. Rather, one must continue to loan, and if Shemitah comes, the loan will be canceled. During the past few days, we've covered the mitzvahs that govern the year of Shemitah, which happens every 7 years. After 7 Shemitahs, or after 49 years, we have what's called the Yovel year, Jubilee, the 50th year. There are special laws that apply to Yovel, many of them similar to the ones that apply in Shemitah. Positive mitzvah number 140 is that the High Court must count the years from when we enter the land of Israel in order to properly determine when the Yovel year will be. Positive mitzvah number 136 is that the High Court must specifically sanctify the year of Yovel as a year during which we'll refrain from working the land, as well as many other Yovel laws. Positive mitzvah number 137 is that on Yom Kippur of the Yovel year, we are to sound the shofar, much like we do on Rosh Hashanah every year. But what's special about this shofar sounding is that through it, liberty is declared to all Jewish slaves. They return home to their families. Negative mitzvah number 224 is that we are prohibited from working the land during Yovel. Negative mitzvah 225 is that we are forbidden from harvesting wild growing grain or crop during Yovel. And negative mitzvah 226 is that we are forbidden from harvesting trees during the year of Yovel. Positive mitzvah number 138 is another mitzvah that's unique to the Yovel year. And that is that during this 50th year, all property that was sold or changed hands in Israel during the preceding 49 years returned to their original owner for free. There's no payment for this. On the flip side of this, and because of this law, we have negative mitzvah number 227, which states that we're not allowed to ever make a sale of land in Israel with the condition that the sale will last forever, because by Yovel, by the 50th year, it has to be returned. Positive mitzvah number 139 is the exception to the previous rule, and that is that if the property that was sold is in a walled city in Israel, then kind of reverse is true. The owner has only 1 year to buy back his land. If he does not do so, it then does stay in the hands of the buyer forever, even passing by Yovel.
All right, there you have it. Matters of Mashiach. All right. And the glory of Hashem shall be revealed, and all flesh together shall see that the mouth of Hashem spoke. It says in the prophet Isaiah says this. Mashiach will teach us how Hashem and the world are not separate. The world is the expression of God, and God is the essence of the world. Once we understand this unity, we will be directly experiencing Hashem in everything we hear, see, smell, taste, and feel. But it's not too early to start. We must strive to find godliness all around us. And one way to do this is to ask yourself, if I were God, why would I create this? Or why would I make this happen? Or how are all things, even the most seemingly inconsequential, a virtual part of the divine reality? All right, I think we will stop there for today. Do we have a Shmuel Tzvi? I think we might. Let's see.
The end is near, my friends. The Messiah is almost here. We are in the final generation of exile. We're in the final generation without the Messiah. And we are the first generation that will greet the Messiah, the Mashiach, the Redeemer. This is prophesied to us in the Tanakh, in the Torah, that a Redeemer will come, that Hashem will save us, and He will send us the Messiah, the Mashiach, the King Mashiach, who will be the heir to the throne of David and heir to the throne of King David, from the house of David. And this era will facilitate a revelation of God throughout the entire world, that there will be the third temple will stand, and the divine presence, God's light will shine throughout the world. Everybody will know there is God, and everyone will feel God. Everyone will feel the best feeling possible. Let it be today.
And that's it. Our PSAs. Bia Soup Kitchen and Pantry is available for you. 726-879. You can get 7 food and hot meals every single day. You can also contribute to them at this web address, masbia.org. In Rockland County, it's tomcheshabbos.org. In Lakewood, tomche.org. And in Chicago, it's the Chicago Center Kitchen at breakfastwithelli.live/Chicago Food Bank. All right, we've got a master list now of soup kitchens. All right, are you ready? Copy this down, breakfastwithelli.live/soup kitchens, breakfastwithelli.live/soup kitchens. All right, Achi Ezer Achiezer.org is available for everything else that you need. They are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for your convenience. They will help you out with pretty much anything that there is to be helped with. Hatzalah EMS, available 24/7, 365 at any of these phone numbers or by going to their website at hatzalah.org. And if you can't find Hatzalah in your neighborhood, then you need to contact me, and and we will get one going for you, okay? All right. Miss Askim, a beautiful organization dedicated to helping Israeli youth get back to the beauty of keeping Shabbat. And you can donate to them at justoneshabbos.com, justoneshabbos.com. If you need their help, you can contact them at that web address as well, and they will be happy to help you out. All right? Oh, did I not click on that? I'm sorry. There you go. Time to copy that down. All right. If you are got or see a hate crime in progress, then you must call 911, and you must do it as soon as is possible. All right? And I'm going to ask you again, as I always do every single day, to continue wearing a mask. It is so important.
Really
okay?
much to ask. Tie some fabric round your face.
Wear a mask
it's
when
the
you're out in public,
simplest of tasks.
where you
At
don't
the
know
gym,
people's
at the
status.
store. Don't treat it like
Just
such
got to
a
be
chore.
careful, and then we will get through this, and we'll get through it together, and we'll all be much happier if everybody does that. And of course, get your vaccinations. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. Bring heaven down to earth. Self-surrender does not mean jumping off a bridge. Self-surrender means surrendering the self. Putting aside the I want, I need, the I think such and such, even the I am. Self-surrender is the subliminal drive behind all sincerely good deeds. Today, as materialism reigns and the human spirit is darkened, that positive drive can no longer stay undercover. So do that. Get rid of that. The I. Me. This is all about me. Think about everybody. That's more important. Okay? All right. Come to me on social media. We'll talk about it. Any of the Actors Rabbis groups. You can find those at Clubhouse, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, Telegram, Twitter, WhatsApp, or at theactorsrabbi.com. And at theactorsrabbi.com, you can avail yourself of our life coaching services that we offer there also. Good morning, Jay. How are you? All right. Let's make an after bracha.
Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam boirei nefashos rabois v'chesronan al kol ma sheborasa lachayos bohem nefesh kol chai baruch chai ha'olamim.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you to my Patreon sponsors, Pest Pro Red All, Tarzan Orchids, Dina D Design, Dr. Spitzer, Bracha Biederman. Go to patreon.com/theactorsrabbi. You can become a sponsor today, or go to breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar, where you can contribute even only $1 a day, or $1, or, whatever it is you feel is necessary, whatever you feel is proper, whatever you feel you can afford to help us pay for this program, because that's very important. We do that. We do this all day, every day. Well, not all day. I don't know why I said that. We don't do it all day. Why would you say we don't do it all day, Ellie? I don't know. Because you're weird. What can I tell you? Breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar or patreon.com/theactorsrabbi for more information. All right. Tonight is Sukkot. You light candles tonight at 6:06. Tomorrow night from an existing flame after 7:04. And the holiday ends on Tuesday night at 7:02. Go to breakfastwithelli.live/Shabbos to know, to find out when exactly in your neck of the woods the holiday begins. All right? What else can I tell you? I'm going to be binding the Lulav and Esrog live today on Facebook Live. Check it out, Facebook Live. You can go to either Elli, the King of Broadway, or the Actor's Rabbi to watch that, or maybe just one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works. All right, Micha Gamerman, our dear friend Micha Gamerman from Brazil, has a beautiful Sukkos melody that I'm about to play for you. Go out there, make it a great and grand day. Chag Sameach, Moadim L'Simcha. If you need help with anything, contact me before the holiday starts. There's still time to get a Lulav and Esrog if possible. I know some Judaica stores that are still open. So, let's do it. Let's get this thing ready and do it and have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Yom Tov. And I will see you on Wednesday. If you have any questions, contact me. I'm around all day getting ready for the Yom Tov. All right? Have a great Yom Tov. Bye-bye. Love you. All right, Micha Gamerman. It's coming. Hard drive's just being a little bit slow. There we go.
ושמחת בחגך והיית אך שמח 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 ושמחת בחגך והיית שמח ושמחת בחגך והיית שמח ושמחת בחגך והיית שמח ושמחת בחגך והיית שמח אתה וחרתנו מכל העמים אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו ורוממתנו מכל הלשונות אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו ורוממתנו מכל הלשונות קידשתנו במצוותיך במצוותיך וקירבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך קידשתנו במצוותיך במצוותיך וקירבתנו לעבודתך ושמך הגדול הגדול והקדוש עלינו קראת ושמך הגדול הגדול והקדוש עלינו קראת הרחמנו יקים לנו את סוכת דוד הנופלת הרחמנו יקים לנו את סוכת דוד הנופלת הרחמן הוא יקים יקים לנו את סוכת דוד הנופלת, הרחמן, הוא יקים לנו את סוכת דוד הנופלת. תורת השם תמימה, תורת השם תמימה, תורת השם תמימה, בישיבת נפש. תורת השם תמימה, תורת השם תמימה, תורת השם תמימה, בישיבת נפש. עדות השם נאמנה, מחכימת ביתי. עדות השם נאמנה, מחכימת ביתי. כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר השם ירושלים. 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 כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר השם ירושלים.